Hey, what up, peeps? This is LA Knight, and I am back with my very first review video in 3 years? 4 years? I think the last video I did was in 2014, but I don't remember when. And I'm here. This is... Oh, hey! New cat! Ah!
Oh, this is our kitty. Well, actually, it's my roommate's cat. But he's not new. He just hasn't appeared in any of my videos before. That was Tyke.
Now he's looking at me like...
What the hell was that about? Why you grabbed me? Hi, Jake! Oh, come here, Jiggers! Oh, he's my Jake! Oh, you rubbed the belly. Rub the belly, Jiggers. Oh, say hi to the first. Hi, Big Roast.
See, now he's looking at me like...
Why'd you put me down?
He's so funny. Jake is like our most... Will you stop that? Don't play with that. So we're here to review... This is part of the December Ween review list. The Madman's Daughter by Megan Shepherd.
Oh, and look! Tackled edging.
Okay, it's basically a published fanfic. It's based on the book The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells. For those, that's not one of his more well-known novels. H.G. Wells is the guy who wrote War of the Worlds and The Time Machine. And The Island of Dr. Moreau is about this guy named Dr. Moreau. Actually, it's about this boy who, and I say boy because he's a young man. He's probably younger than me. This boy who crash lands on this island, and he gets taken in by this doctor, and the doctor is Dr. Moreau, and the guy is like...
Okay, here's the deal. Don't go near the village natives, because they're not comfortable with strangers, but let me show you my work.
And his work, and I guess this was like super horrifically, blasphemously awful when the book came out, but his work, oh my gosh, I'm wearing foundation, and so cat hair is floating through the air and sticking to my face. His work is that he's taking animals and through surgery and chemical injections, turning them into humans. Not actual humans. He's not like shifting their DNA or anything. He's not like, they're not metamorphosing into humans, but they're acting humanoid. And so like they're standing on all four. Like the main character doesn't realize that these are animals at first when he sees them. But then as he's there on the island, stuff starts going wrong, and the natives start reverting back to their more animal forms, which is really bad because some of them are like seriously scary carnivorous predators like tigers and shit, and then everything goes to shit and everyone dies except the boy who manages to get off the island. So that's the actual original book. In The Madman's Daughter, that book is about Juliet, the daughter of Dr. Moreau, and she thinks her dad is dead because he disappeared. And everyone thinks he's dead or that he left. And she's an orphan after her dad left, because her dad left in disgrace because he was doing all these weird, creepy, blasphemous experiments. Like, he left and they didn't have any money, and so her mom ended up becoming like a prostitute, and then her mom ended up dying, and now she wants to be a doctor, but she can't be a doctor because she's a woman during this time because she doesn't have any money. Like, she could be a doctor if she had the money, but she does not have the money at this point to go to med school, because like scholarships for female doctors did not exist really, and she doesn't have access to them. And she is going to like some classes, but it's really hard for her, and like there's a lot of discrimination going on because she's a woman, because she's poor, because she used to be rich and now she's poor. Like that's even worse than being poor originally, apparently. And then she ends up running into her old childhood sweetheart / best friend who used to be her dad's assistant, and she's like, what the hell? And he's like,
oh my god.
And she's like,
where have you been?
And he's like,
I'm with your dad. Don't kill me.
And she's like, you're with my dad. Oh, real fast, quick side note, because I can see myself in my phone. That's me smiling. I have a gap about this big between my top and bottom teeth for various reasons. So if I go like that's the same as most people just smiling normally. Just FYI. Anyway, so he's like,
please don't kill me. She's like, well, I'm in trouble. I've got some shit going on. I'm in trouble. Oh.
Another thing is she gets assaulted by like the dean of the school, of the medical school where she works as a maid. He's like,
we're gonna have sex. And she's like, fuck you, no, we're not.
He attacks her, and she attacks him back, but because she's the daughter of Dr. Moreau, and because she's a woman, and because she wants to be a doctor, he basically manages to sell it that she's crazy, and she attacked him, and so they're probably gonna, like, lock her up in Bedlam or something. And back in the day, like, people in insane asylums and in psychiatric hospitals were treated horribly and died all the time. She is like,
I need to go with you, and he's like, you're not going with me because we're going places where you cannot go. And she's like, we're going. I'm going with you. I'm going to go. Fuck you. You don't get to tell me what I'm going to do or not. And he's like, oh shit, fine, whatever.
They end up going to the island, and she reunites with her dad. And on the way, they pick up this dude who's, like, shipwrecked, and he's like,
"Hi, my name's Edward, and I need some help, because I'm stuck in the middle of the ocean. Save me!" Oh, I knocked over a bottle.
And Juliet's like, okay. Now, the thing is, Juliet and Montgomery is the name of the assistant, have always had a thing going on. So there's a love triangle in this book, just to throw that out there. They've always had this kind of a thing going on, but Montgomery is like,
"We can't be together because I'm a servant, and you're the daughter of a gentleman."
and she's just like,
Really?
and so then Edward shows up, and he's obviously the son of a gentleman. And so she's like,
"Ooh, Edward's kind of hot and mysterious, and I want to know more about him," and blah, 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 blah.
so they start having, like, a thing going on, but he's just like,
"Juliet, we can't be together." And she's like, "Well, why not?" And he's like, "Because reasons." And she's like, "Okay, what reasons?" And he's like, "Reasons that I cannot tell you."
and she's just like,
What is up with boys? Like, boys are dumb.
they get to the island, and her dad is like,
I think you and Edward should hook up.
and she's like,
I'm sorry, I haven't seen you in like 5 years. You don't get to make decisions about who I should be dating. Thank you very much.
and her dad's like,
No, but seriously, you two should hook up. I think it'd be a great idea.
and she's like,
What?
like, her dad finds out that her and Montgomery have a thing, and he's like,
Really? Stabbed in the heart because you are a servant, even though I raised you as my own son. You actually thought that you could have my daughter. How dare you?
and he's like,
And you shameless hussy. And she's just like, fuck you, dude.
she ends up learning about her dad's experiments, because she, like, heard about the rumors that he was vivisecting animals.
By the way, vivisecting is when you dissect something while it's still alive, which is horrible.
Turns out he actually was not vivisecting anything. He was, like, surgically altering animals, but they didn't. He was smart enough not to say,
Yeah, I'm trying to make dogs into people.
because then, like, everyone would have flipped their shit. And she finds all this out, and she's just like,
I can't believe that, like, in the middle of this tropical jungle, you're making these people who are actually animals, and they're not people. And, like, I can't believe...
oh, here's the other thing, real quick. The entire book, almost, Juliet thinks she has diabetes. She has to take this, like, special medicine made from an extract created by pulverizing cow pancreas, and if she doesn't take it, she gets feverish and sick. She's actually, what is described as the side effects of not taking this medication is, in fact, the side effects of not taking insulin when you are diabetic. So that's why, like, for most of the book, I was like, oh, cool, she's diabetic, that's cool. No, she's not. They looked, and I'll get to that in a second. So, ow! Oh, I'm sitting on my floor because it's the only place that I can sit. I don't know if I'll be able to get up. I'm also, like, super medicated right now. And I don't just mean, I don't mean, like, antidepressant medication, although I am on antidepressants. But, no, I'm on, like, I have, like, 5-6 Benadryl in me. Hi. Anyway, she's like,
I can't believe that you're doing these experiments and you abandoned me and Mother to do these experiments. He's like, science. Science is my one love in life. I mean, I loved your mom, but science. And she's like, did you even love me? He's like, of course I loved you. You were my greatest work. And she's like, aw, Dad.
no, it turned out actually no. She was gonna die when she was born, and so her mother begged him to experiment on her to keep her from dying, and so she's part deer or something, and that is what the medicine actually does, is it keeps her body from rejecting the deer organs. This is, like, totally not, like, a realistic science fiction novel, but back when when The Island of Dr. Moreau was written, like, it absolutely, people were like,
Science could definitely take us there one day. I'm pretty sure maybe in like 1,000 years it could, but why would you want to?
like, that's what he meant by "you're my greatest work." But then later, when she refuses to do what he says, and she won't get with Edward just because he says so, he's like,
Oh, you know, I thought you were my greatest work, but I was wrong. You're actually my greatest failure. And, oh, alas, I'll have to make more children. Like, you should have gotten with Edward because he's perfect for you. He's made for you. And she's like, wait, what does that mean? And he's like, exactly what it sounds like.
because apparently Edward did not crash off of a ship, you know, and whatever, and had no idea where they were. No, he actually escaped from the island and is actually, like, one of the doctor's, like, most advanced experiments, except that now it's, like, breaking down inside of him, and so he'll, like, shapeshift into this monster. This book takes the original premise of The Island of Dr. Moreau and makes it way, way, way more, like, out there, because, like, The Island of Dr. Moreau, the book itself, is actually pretty tame, but, I mean, it was, like, the 1800s when it was written, so that's not, like, you know, weird that it's tame, because, I mean, in Dracula, as an example, like, as an example of a book that is tame compared to today's standards, like, today, if you watch a vampire movie, you're expecting, you know, blood and sex and people getting their throats torn out and werewolves and death and staking and da-da-da-da. And yeah, like, some of that stuff is in Dracula, but it's really, really toned down. And it's like,
okay, so we shall stake the vampire. Oh, he turned to dust. No geyser of blood. No attacking people. None of that stuff. Just, oh, he's dead. Okay.
and there's no sex in Dracula, like, at all. Even though vampirism itself is, like, a metaphor for both sex and sexually transmitted diseases.
Google that.
Even though that's, like, a thing, and Bram Stoker did that on purpose, there's no sex in Dracula. So, like, that's, like, an example of what I mean. The Island of Dr. Moreau is very... I would not be afraid of my 7-year-old reading it if she had the reading comprehension to understand what was going on in the book. This book, I might want wait until my 7-year-old was maybe, like, 10 to read it, because there's, like, some steamy fun times going on. No sex, but, you know, making out and things. And also there's this girl who's the maid, Juliet's maid, when she gets to the island, who has a crush on Montgomery. Like, this is actually kind of weird, because, on the one hand, Edward and the maid are people. Like, they're portrayed as people, but they're not. They're animals. And so it's like, if Juliet hooks up with Edward, is that bestiality? Like, what, like... There's a question for the ages. And then the maid, she and Juliet end up becoming really good friends, and she obviously has, like, a huge crush on Montgomery, and unfortunately she ends up getting killed. And Juliet thinks she's a person, like a human, and then it turns out, no, she's actually a surgically altered rabbit. And you don't know how her dad does these things, you just know that he does them. And the thing is, in the original book, you didn't know how he did it either. Like, how he managed to take, like... Because a rabbit's not very big. I mean, I guess they could be. There are some rabbits that are, like, half the size of my body. But even still, a rabbit half the size of my body getting turned into a girl human who's, like, 14 looking, you know, I mean, that's a lot of extra stuff you gotta shove in there. And also, like, but that sort of then raises the question, like, where do you draw the line? Like, if you have... Like, where does the self stay in your body? Like, is it in your brain? Because if it's in your brain, then yeah, Alice is a rabbit, but Alice is the maid. But at the same time, like, almost, she has human skin now because of skin grafts. She has, like, her bones have been pinned and nailed and screwed in and extended and all this stuff. Like, there's not much of the original rabbit left except the brain, which is somehow now human-sized. I don't know. There's a lot, like, this book requires a huge suspension of disbelief. I'm just gonna say that, because how do you take something like this big and turn it into this? And you never find out. But there's a monster now prowling around because, like, shit's going down. People are starting to revert to their more animal natures, even though they're trapped in these screwed up, messed up bodies because, like, he surgically altered them. Like, even though they're mentally regressing, they're not physically regressing, so that's, like, they're probably all gonna die, because how are they gonna survive? The island ends up, like, all the buildings burn down, they end up having to leave. Her dad is like,
I refuse to leave my work, and she's just like, okay, fine, fuck you, good riddance to you, I hate you anyway.
I read it because I really like those books that take, like, a classic novel and then extrapolate on that. That's why I like
Nevermore by Kelly Cray. That's why I like The Iron Thorn by Caitlin Kittredge. The Hollow by Jessica Verde.
They all do that. And so that's why I picked up this book. I expected to like it more than I did, because I thought it would be at the same caliber as the books I just mentioned, and it's not. But I did enjoy it. I feel like if someone's in the mood for, like, a semi-romantic, you know, gothic light, historical, mystery, paranormal thing going on, then, you know, you'd like this book. If you liked if you're willing to take science fantasy over science fiction, which is fine, because I do that sometimes, you know, I'll take either one. But this is more science fantasy than science fiction, because the science is just not there. So, like, science fantasy is more like, basically it's a fantasy novel, but it's supposedly backed up by science, but it's not really backed up by science. So, you know, if that's the thing that you like, then you probably will like this book. I will say that the whole
I love him, oh I love him, oh I love him, oh I love him,
that whole thing that happens a lot in love triangles, it's kind of there, but it's not annoying. It's there for a reason. The reason it's there is believable. She really likes Montgomery, but he just won't go out with her. And he really likes her too, which is why she keeps being drawn back to him. Because he's
like, I love you so much, but...
And basically he'll be like,
I love you so much. And she'll be like, yeah, but... And she's like, okay. And then he'll be like, see, the thing is, Juliet, I love you so much. And she's like, really? Yeah? And he's like, but... And she's like, okay.
And so that's why she wants Edward, is because Edward is like,
I love you and also I'll treat you well and blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, there's like so much wrong with me. And I can't tell you everything that's wrong with me. And she's just like, can one of you please make up your goddamn mind? Thank you. Okay, I'll be here when one of you makes up your fucking minds.
So this is like a 3.5 out of 5 stars, maybe like a 3.25 stars out of 5 stars. I really liked it. It was actually really creepy because the thing is, I read The Island of Dr. Moreau when I was very young, possibly too young, because I didn't quite understand all of like the historical context of what was going on, like why it was such a horrifying huge deal what he was doing. And now I think I'm just like, okay, it's dumb that everyone reacted that way, but I understand why they did. But as a kid, I didn't understand why they were freaking out like at all. And I think part of that was because, you know, when you're 7 years old, like what do you know about historical England and, you know, their religious mores? But because I read it so long ago, I didn't remember much of what happened other than the very basics. Like, okay, there's the guy, there's the island, there's the experiments are starting to go wrong, everyone's starting to go crazy, everyone's gonna die. Like, the thing with Edward, although Edward is a character in the book, he's not portrayed the same way in the original book as he is in the new book. Same thing with Montgomery. And really, actually, the same thing with Dr. Moreau. Dr. Moreau was actually villainized a lot more in The Madman's Daughter than he is in the original. Because it's not until I believe Montgomery is the main character. Montgomery is the main character in the book, in the original book. And he's not an assistant in the original book. He is like, what is that? Huh. There's a piece of plastic on the floor. Anyway, he's not like,
oh, Dr. Moreau is like inherently evil and he's freaking me out and he's creepy and he's rude. He's like, wow, this guy's like really nice and he's really polite, and how is he keeping like British customs and traditions and polite society going on in this freaky jungle?
And then later he finds out the guy's like, you know, experimenting on people. He's like,
holy shit!
There is some differences between the two books. Basically, this is a fanfic. It is a novel-length fanfic of what would have happened if Dr. Moreau had a hot, attractive teenage daughter. And I'm totally here for that. I enjoyed it, and I would recommend it to people who like these kinds of books. Yeah, I think, and I bought the entire series based on how much I like, because it's a trilogy, based on how much I liked the first book. I also bought the first book in her other trilogy, The Cage, which is about aliens, because based on the strength of the writing in this book, I really liked it. I really did. It's just, I thought it was going to be like a 5-star, and it wasn't. But I really need to not go into reading a book with the expectation that it's going to be 5 stars every time, because it's almost never is. And, you know, I need to learn. I haven't learned yet. Need to learn. So, that was my review of The Madman's Daughter by Megan Shepherd. Isn't this a pretty cover? Although the only thing is that her dress is, like, falling apart, and this is supposed to be Victorian England. So, like, is that a bathrobe? Or is she, like, getting undressed to go in the water? Or, like, what is she doing? But, whatever. I'm still not used to, like, freelancing, freestyling, I guess, off of, you know, just off the cuff with no notes in front of me, like I do on my computer when I do podcasts. But I need to get back in the habit of not saying, all the time. I really hope this phone is getting the audio, because I know it's getting the video. I'm looking right at myself in the thing. And I hope it's getting me, because if it's not, I'm going to be super pissed, because I just talked for 24 minutes for no reason. Press the like button if you love me, subscribe for more of me, or leave a comment down below. I will talk to you guys later. I don't have my little prompty thing giving me my outro right now. I have to practice that now that I don't have my screen in front of me. And don't forget to check me out on, let's see if I can remember them all. I'm not going to do it in one breath this time, because the last time I did it I couldn't remember them all because I didn't have my list in front of me. Don't forget to check me out on
8 Tracks, Archive of Our Own, Etsy, DeviantArt, fanfiction.net, fictionpress.com, fanfiction.net, Goodreads, Wattpad, Spotify, let's see, SoundCloud, Patreon, Pinterest, Tumblr, Twitter, and YouTube.
Oh, I got it. Or you can buy me a coffee, and I will post all of those links in the doobly-doo down below. And, remember, you guys are loved, even if you don't think you are. Hope you have a good day. Shout out to my patrons, Amanda, Belle, Chelsea, Cynthia, Lorien, Whitney. I love you guys. Let me know what you think, whether you prefer the videos or the podcasts. I know that I do a lot more of this when I do videos. Oh, my hair is bothering me. Let me know what you think, and I will see you guys later. Love you all. Bye!